The tour of the Odéon area. It's a surprisingly intense area, Odéon, and almost every building has some sort of historical or literary significance. The adventures of the people who came here during the First War, including my grandfather, who was a soldier here, an Australian soldier, never fired a shot, but had an interesting time. It's another collection of essays called The Golden Moments of Paris. It's 30 essays about individual events and people between the wars, the 20s and 30s. Encyclopedia of Erotica. Also, if you'd like that, you might learn something.
Love that,
right? So there's that. And then, I don't know, do you have The Most Beautiful Walk in the World?
Yes.
You have that already?
Yes, I read that. I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, thank you very much. That's great. One of my earlier books, I described how, when I arrived, the first thing I did was I went to Christmas dinner with my soon-to-be adoptive family, and it was one of the worst meals I'd ever eaten. I said to Mary, Dominic, who made this? And she said, well, nobody made it. Everybody brings a dish, By the middle of the year, my mother-in-law came to me and said, would you mind cooking Christmas dinner next year? And so that my second Christmas here, I cooked a Christmas dinner, and I did the Christmas dinner for the next 15 years.
Can you tell me about the building that we're in?
Yeah, the building is 1760, so quite old, before the Revolution. And this used to be what are called chambres de bonne, maids' rooms. Secrets of buildings like this, of course, at Sylvia Beach, the proprietor of Shakespeare and Company, she used to live 2 floors down on the 4th floor, was visited there by Hemingway, Fitzgerald, James Joyce, and so on. So there's a lot of associations in the building with literature, history, and so on, in addition to being really wonderful place to live.
It is.
And the magazine Transition, which published Hemingway and people like that, it all came out of Shakespeare from this little 2-room shop down the road. So we're in the presence of history.
Well, let's go take that tour.
Let's take the tour. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Let me get my coat. Until really the 1860s, people went everywhere on horseback or by coach. It was only the poor who walked, and that had a fundamental effect on the way the city developed. That's why this became a city of pedestrians, because after Baron Haussmann rebuilt the city in the 1850s and 1860s, suddenly there were sidewalks and people could come out. But this is really... Dr. Guillotin was an opponent of capital punishment. Brought the guillotine out, they showed it to the Assemblée Nationale. They tried it out up on what is now Place de la Concorde, was then Place de la Révolution. It just made capital punishment the best show in town. It even became traditional. Great embarrassment of this was compounded when an English versifier couldn't find a rhyme for guillotin, so changed it to guillotine with an E. But Guillotin himself survived the revolution, and so it all happened.
Here.
All happened here. Yeah. But this is Rue de Bussy, which in the 1940s was broad. And then, of course, the phrase Saint-Germain-des-Prés became associated with bohemianism, wild behaviour, and so on. That was because in the 1940s, when the Germans occupied this area, this became the centre of rest and recreation for the troops. And then when the Germans left and the Americans and the British and Canadians and Australians arrived, it just continued like that well into the 50s. But this was all jazz area. It's really, you can almost hear.
This is really where it was.
It really was. This was where it was happening. What would you like? I'm having a creme. Hemingway got shrapnel in his legs, went into hospital, fell in love with his nurse. They broke up. He wrote A Farewell to Arms, became a famous writer. Harry Crosby, everyone in his team was killed or wounded. he was untouched. He decided he was going to come to Paris and he was going to explore every kind of sensation. But they did everything, or they were into every kind of drugs. Very big opium users. They used to go to the really chic fumerie, which was called Drosso, which was very elegant. You changed into a silken kimono before you went and smoked and so on. Man Ray is mainly known as one of the Montparnassos of before the Second World War, but when war broke out, he went back to America and only returned in the 1945-46 with a wife, with Juliet, the wife. And they lived in this little apartment here, and this was his studio here with the north light coming in. And this is where he did his last work, most of the rayographs and so on. Joanne, or to camera?
To both of us. It doesn't
I
matter.
can't do both.
Just a discussion.
Yes.
Just a discussion.
My eyes don't
Joanne.
move like a frog.
Which one of you is in here?
Joanne is good.
So,
is good.
Joanne
Yes.
and I are
Yes.
talking
Yes.
and
Exactly.
you're filming. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Yeah, the building is